This is Rakam Akapasham, Jim Islam, giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Shem Chachwadash. When they give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in all sincerity. Back again with another video, and I'll call, news video, or news video on my TV, all right? So I thought I'd look for the article for it. And it's from DW News, from the YouTube, right? And it's got how Trump's economic team hopes to reset the international financial system, right? Because, Trump's been put in power to do the bidding of the elites. And, part of that agenda is to reset everything, right? He was always talking about the Great Reset and, the new orders and all these kinds of things here, right? They're looking to push a new system, right? We're in that time, they looking to push this new system, right? And in the article, I'm not sure if loaded up here, right? It talks about going into like weakening the dollar on purpose, right? So that goods from inside the country is cheaper, I think, right? To change how they do things, right? Because America is a great importer, right? And all the Chinese goods, they come here on the cheap, right? But they kind of want to reverse that, right? So they want to send their products to China and these different places or whatever, right? Because they're pitching it like it's going to be profitable or better for the United States, right? But this whole reset goes deeper than just this Marigold Accord, as they're calling it, which I'm going to read a little bit about this in a minute, right? Because we know Trump is also a big advocate for digital currency, right? He wants to be a crypto nation, right? Because this all goes hand in hand with the MOTB technology, right? The blockchain and digital payments and as well as like the UBI, the Universal Basic Income, right? Because they can control all of this, with with great accuracy or tighter restrictions and controls, right? So there's a huge reset that they're looking to, do in the world. All right. So let me read some of this article. This is from Medium. It says how Trump's economic team hopes to reset the international financial system. Trump's economic team and their wild plan to flip the international financial system on its head with the so-called Mar-a-Lago Accord is ambitious, it's risky, and it's got potential to either reshape global trade or blow up in everyone's faces. So here's my take, grounded in what's out there from solid sources, spiced with a bit of my own, blah, 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 blah. All right. The big idea, weakening the dollar to win at home. So picture this, Trump's economic crew sipping... all right, so basically Trump and his team believe that the US dollar is too strong. All right. This is for decades, a muscular dollar has been America's flex, making imports cheap and keeping Wall Street humming. But these folks see it differently. They argue it's choking US manufacturing, letting foreign goods flood in while American factories rust. Right? And so they mention these things, and they're gonna go, oh yeah, it's because of this, we're losing our jobs and stuff like that, and we can't be competitive and all this. Look, man, this isn't Esau trying to make America great again for the people of America, right? You people ain't gonna suddenly get jobs, from them doing this. If they proceed with it, right? You people ain't just gonna find yourself getting jobs, right? We already know the trend of that, right? They're replacing you with machines and AI and all kinds of things, right? So these corporations are gonna become more profitable. All right, you're gonna be fucking broke. This what we're talking about right here doesn't it doesn't include the American people, right? Economics does not include American people, man. Okay, the only people that benefit from economics are the corporations. All right, you are just consumers, and so you'll consume whatever you can consume based on what you got in your pocket, right? Which they're taking they're taking more and more money out of your pocket, right? So you can be broke, right? This isn't going to matter to you, other than the fact that you can't buy anything anyway. All right. So they argue it's choking US manufacturing and foreign goods flood in while American factories rust. Their fix: devalue the dollar deliberately, which they've been doing. They've been devaluing the dollar. That's why you people are poor. That's why everything's more expensive, because they keep printing more and more dollars. Right? The country's getting further and further into debt, and they just keep printing more and more dollars, man. Right? So everything is becoming more and more expensive. That's then weakening the dollar. It's not worth as much as it used to be. You know, it's not even backed by anything. You know, once upon a time it used to be backed by gold. You know, something of actual value. Okay, that held its value, right? So think of it as a reverse heist, making US stuff cheaper abroad and foreign goods pricier here, right? But that's all there is in these places, foreign goods. And so I guess they're saying, oh, but we need American goods, right? But you ain't gonna be able to afford them. This is what's crazy, right? You got all these cheap knockoff, these cheap Chinese knockoffs everywhere because that's what people can afford. They're flooded in America because, you know, that's the way you kind of market yourself, right? You put yourself in that position, right? But these people need these cheap knockoffs, man. These cheap products because they can't afford other shit, right? So what? You're gonna make the Chinese stuff more expensive, right? And what? American goods are gonna become cheaper? How? There's gonna be a hell of a lot less of it. I'll tell you that much. All right. This is all to juice up job. See that? This is how they're selling it, right? Here, this is making US stuff cheaper abroad and foreign goods pricier here. All to juice up jobs and production stateside. Now this makes it sound like this is going to benefit the American people. American people are going to get jobs, right? But they're going to build a factory, and guess what? It's going to be mostly machines in that factory, right? With a few technicians, you know, tending the machines, a couple programmers or whatever. You know, that is the maximum efficiency right there. That's maximum profitability right there, and that's what these corporations care about. They don't care about people. They don't care about if you've got a family you need to feed. What they care about is their profit lines. All right. So when they build the factories, yeah, you're gonna need people to build the factory. But once the factory is built, they don't need you. They dream of having one of those dream of having automated manufacturing lines like China, right? That's what they dream about because these Chinese are killing it right now in the vehicle industry right now with their EVs, you know, the electric vehicles. They're killing it, producing EVs at a fraction of the price of American Teslas and all this other shit. They're killing it. Same with their quantum computing and their AI technology. They can just do it cheaper, right? So they dream of a situation where, you know, their corporation could do that, right? So don't be fooled. Don't have them make you believe that this is what they're doing is here to benefit the American people, right? We know the grind is going to be made low, right? Ecclesiastes chapter 12 and verse 4. Let me start from verse 3 here. It says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few. People are losing their jobs, and that's a trend that's going to continue, right? I had another article. Bill Gates says within 10 years, you know, whatever. In 10 years, people won't be needed for most jobs, doctors and all these kinds of things. We won't need them. AI, and you know, machines, robotics will take over most of these jobs. So what about you? How are you going to earn your living? You know, or you're gonna work in where's safe, where it is safe that you could go and earn something, even if it's not a lot. Where are you gonna go? I was gonna say, yeah, you know, you're gonna go work in your supermarket, but guess what? It's been replaced by self checkouts. Being self checkouts, man. I was saying McDonald's, but you know, I guess in no time they'll have people, you know, machines flipping burgers because I've seen that in other countries. You know what I mean? It's like, where is safe? Where does mankind fit in this new world, in this reset? You know, where do we fit in? Now, these elites, they look at us as well, look at the people as useless eaters. Like, you're just a drain on resources, right? And that's something else they complain about. There's not enough resources for everybody. Right? We're all causing global warming, whatever. We need to be reduced. That is the vision of these elites, right? And that's obviously, evidently, the future that they're working towards. All right, you are not in the equation. You are not important. Okay, they'll put up with you for for a little while longer. They'll put they're going to put you on universal basic income. They're going to this new financial system is going to be a digital system, right? Which we keep telling you, okay, and that's going to be accommodated by a micro CHIP, okay, that you're going to have to have in your persons, okay, just like the prophecy states, right? That is where you're going to be at. That's your role in all of this, right? Begging, begging for scraps, right? That the elites are going to give to those that have taken his mark, right? Let me grab that. Let me finish this quickly. So the grind has ceased because they are few, and those that look out the window be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grind is low. Right? These places are gonna shut down. All these local businesses, they're gonna be outcompeted, man. This AI and robotic technology is just gonna outcompete these things. They're gonna be able to afford to compete. Right? So they're gonna close down. More people gonna lose their jobs. Right? This is And the doors shall be shut in the street when the sound of the grind is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of a bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. Right? So we know this is not gonna benefit the people and give them good jobs that they desperately need. While you're sitting there devaluing their dollars. You know what I mean? You're grinding people more and more into the dirt, man. None of this is positive news, but to the simple, that's what we're reading here sounds like oh, that's positive. It's not going to be down to China on this. We're going to make America great again because we're going to get the American products and American jobs. Yeah, but you ain't got no place you ain't got no part in that. There's no place for you in that. Um, but yeah, let me go Revelation 13 and 16. I had it here somewhere. All right, it says here. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, right? So this is the future. This is this digital technology that we're moving towards, right? Like I said, the whole digital currency thing, the central bank digital currencies, the blockchain. I said that right. That's all to do with controlling financial systems, right? Whereas cash, is there's too many people doing too much stuff under Esau's radar, and Esau wants to know. He wants to know where his money's going, right? So he gonna make sure that everything is recorded, everybody is accounted for, right? They want to bank the unbanked. They don't even want poor people buying cups of coffee with the change that they're given. You know what I mean? They want to know where everything is going. And so for you to access these things in due time, you're going to be asked to take a CHIP, okay, which is the MOTB, right? Because there's going to be no other way to access the system, and so this is going to cause desperation to take place because there's no other way to buy or sell anything, right? So you're going to need that to like it says, buy or sell. You're going to need that CHIP, all right? So it says and he calls it all both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or on their foreheads, right? So that's where this CHIP is going to be going for the most part, in people's hands and in their foreheads, right? And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name, right? So it's going to be a prerequisite for you to be able to do anything, because your cash that you got in your pocket today, right? That's not going to work, right? That's not going to work. Okay. So everything you do is going to have to be digitally done, right? And you have to be verified, right? That's what the CHIP helps do, right? To verify you are who you say you are, right? With the biometrics and all this stuff, right? So you're authorized to make these payments, right? The CHIP and the person it matches up, so you know the transfer or whatever can take place, right? Ain't nobody accepting your cash, right? This old way of doing things is about to getting rid of, right? And they're all talking about it, you know. So yeah, no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. All right. Back here, it says the DW News piece from March 28th, 2025, which is what, yesterday? A couple of days ago. Lays it out. It says this isn't just talk. It's a structured plan to rejigger how the world trades. They're pitching ultra long-term US bonds, think 100-year terms, to replace existing debt held by other countries, hoping to ease pressure on the dollar's value. It's a bold swing, no question, but here's my 2 cents. It's a hell of a gamble. A weaker dollar could spark a manufacturing boom. Think steel plants humming again in Pennsylvania, right? But like I said, these steel plants, it'll be filled with mostly machines and AI, right? So there might be a boom in terms of like, yeah, you know, these steel companies, they're going to make a lot of money. You know what I mean? They're going to make a lot of money, but the people, there's not going to be much money coming back to the people, you know? I think steel plants humming again in Pennsylvania, right? But it might also jack up the cost of your next iPhone or Toyota, which these Americans love, right? They love their foreign cars and they love their iPhones, you know? Because albeit, you know, iPhones are quote unquote an American product, right? It's designed in America, but all the parts come from China, you know? So, you know, Reuters has flagged similar moves in Trump's playbook before, like his tariff obsession, and they always come with a price tag for consumers, right? Oh, they would just sign up for the whole story. To hell with you. Let's see what's got left here. Oh yeah, I forgot about this part. They got like a color system for nations, right? I can't read it all, but it says here now. Here's what gets spicy. There's a Mar-a-Lago Accord. The Mar-a-Lago Accord isn't just about currency; it's a geopolitical power play. The plan sorts trading partners, America's trading partners, into a traffic light system. Green for allies who play ball, right? The Americans taking this hard stance, man. So those who play ball with America to be, you know, deemed as green, right? So they get certain benefits for being a green partner, right? I see them mention about their military defense and all these types of things. Yeah, if you're playing ball with us, we'll defend you militarily. You know, if you sell these sell these American bonds you got or whatever, yeah, you're a green ally if you do these things. If you do what we ask you to do, right? This is a yellow for those on the fence, a red for holdouts like say China, right? So those who don't want to play ball, right? They're gonna get tariffs and they're gonna get this and that and or whatever. You know, they're gonna get dealt with economic aggression. You know, if you don't play ball with the United States, so they're gonna throw around their weight, man. Because like we've been telling you, man, they're nothing but bullies, right? So yeah, for holdouts like China, or reds for holdouts like China, right? The leverage, military aid and tariffs, right? Cooperate, sign onto the dollar weakening scheme, and take those 100-year bonds, and you might get a sweet deal on F-35s or tariff breaks. Resist, and you're staring down trade barriers or a cold shoulder on defense. All right, and I can't see the rest of it. All right, so that's how they're planning to do it. So they're being gangsters, man, offering protection. You know, like these old mafias, right? When they come up to your store and tell you to pay them for protection. For protection from who? From themselves. You know what I mean? This is what America's doing now. You know, yeah, because they want you to weaken the dollar, right? So you better, or you know, you're gonna find yourself getting slapped with tariffs. It's some gangster shit, right? The bully of the earth, man, the hammer of the earth. All right, that's what America is. It's Jeremiah 50 verse 23. It says, "How is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder?" Right, because America's gonna go outside. It's gonna go outside, man. When the Lord, kicks World War III into high gear, and starts telling these leaders to shoot their missiles at America, man. It's gonna be a sad day for America, man. Right? So they're gonna end up being destroyed, right? But they've been the hammer of the earth. They've been this oppressor, right? It's literally, and because Trump's in power now, that they're even more stiff-hearted, man, even more proud, right? It's their way or the highway. You got to do what America says. Or we're just gonna, be aggressive against you, essentially. Gonna be against you, right? It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How has Babylon become a desolation among the nations? Okay, that's what's gonna happen to them, right? Not just because of they've been bullies in the earth. It's much more than that, right? And mainly because of the things that these Edomites have been doing to the children of Israel. Well, this is just your lot, man. Right? This is how it's all gonna play out. Just more scriptures here, right? So, this is Isaiah chapter 30, verse 2. And what's up from the top, right? It says, "Woe to the rebellious children, saith the Lord, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin. That walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt," right? So to some, this is going to sound like a good idea. And people are going to be like, yeah, America, yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, Trump's bringing the jobs back. Yeah, Trump's making America great again. Yeah, don't need China and all this shit, right? So, yeah, and people are gonna, like I say, trust in it, trust in this system, trust in this new system that they're trying to push, right? And in all its different aspects, right? You got Elon Musk, doing the Doge, you got people that is trusting in these people, right? Thinking that they're going to lead them to greener pastures, man. But these people are just leading them to the destruction. That's the truth, right? And anybody that decides that they want to go down this road with Esau because they believe in the future that he's portraying, right? You're going to be destroyed right along with him. Okay. So therefore, shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt for your confusion, right? Because part of his vision, or part of the thing that he's trying to implement is that you got to take the MOTB, that you got to take a CHIP, that you will go on a digital currency, man, and be tracked and monitored and restricted and told what you can and can't do, what you can and can't spend, and where you can and can't go. He wants to get rid of your cars. He wants you to live in a 15-minute city. He wants you to bow down to him and do as he tells you to do, right? Otherwise, you're going to find yourself a different list. You're going to be green, yellow, or red. And Esau's got these lists in the background. He's already kind of applying these lists already, right? But, if he's prepared to do this to nations, right, then he quite easily do it to people. And like I say, he's using these types of lists in the background. Right, but this is what it's gonna be. Like once you get the CHIP now, right? you'll be like Mark. Again, we use this example a lot with the whole China social credit system. That labels people, good to bad or whatever. And there's certain restrictions depending on how good a citizen you are. So you're seeing it here. You're seeing the same methods being used. It's just being used on countries at the moment, to weaken the dollar. But this is Esau's mentality. So he will apply this. He can and will apply this any way he wants to. And like I said, he's got these things running in the background, and that's why Jake is so effed a lot of the time, because you're on his naughty list. You're on his naughty list, man. Out there making his towns look bad, man. With your crime and shit. So he's got it in for you guys. But yeah, right. Let's say if you trust in the Esau and his system and his plans, his future, this is what he's expecting or what he's going to be doing, right? You think that's if you think that's okay, then fine. Walk with Esau, But we have to remind you that anybody that takes his mark, right, is going to be destroyed. Thus saith the Lord. All right, we have to remind you that, right? Because this devil ain't right. He ain't never been right. Okay, all he wants to do is oppress. Okay. So again, therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. Okay. This is Micah chapter 2, verse 1. So woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hand, right? So it's like these devils are always putting a scheme in and moving to the next phase of their plans, right? They have the power, they have the means to do it. Let's say, Trump, he's just throwing around his military might right now and his economic might. And you just say, well, we're gonna slap sanctions if you don't play ball, or you ain't gonna get no military assurances from us anymore, or maybe America becomes more hostile to you in the region, and starts fucking with your money. I can imagine with the whole China situation, they do more deals with Taiwan, and that's just gonna kick up a stink. More military up in Taiwan and shit. Like, they don't want all of that. So Esau's just throwing around their might around at the moment because they got it. They got it like that for now. Just to force people to do what they want them to do. All right. So they're the ones with the power. In Psalm 64, verse 2, it says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly they did shoot him and feared not. So they encourage themselves in an evil matter, right? And this is unjust, man. Everything that these men are doing is unjust. They're lying to the public, right, by offering them false hope. Like it's going to change something for them. Like I say, it's only going to change things for these corporations, the elites who are just going to get richer. While you getting poorer. Because how does devaluing the dollar help the people? And you're not even giving them jobs really like that. How is that going to help? Oh, they get to buy American goods now. Great, but what about the cheap stuff we was buying before? We needed those cheap stuff, and now they're more expensive. Well, yeah, but you could buy American. All right, great. Yeah, be a patriot while you're fucking struggling to feed your kids. It's insane, right? But these are the plans of these so-called intelligent people, right? These leaders, because they're meant to be intelligent, right? And they are intelligent. Let's just be real about it. They are intelligent, but they just don't give a damn about you, the public. They're not here to serve the public. They're here to serve the global elite. All right. It says they encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of everyone and of them, and the heart is deep. Right. So they're not stupid. They know exactly what effects it's going to have on the people. But you're being sold this different narrative, right? That this is supposed to be something positive, right? But like I say, he's just pushing you further and further into poverty to the point where he can enslave you because you're desperate. You will own nothing. Pushing you to the point of desperation, which means you're going to take his mark because he's gonna promise the world. He's gonna promise the world to you, man. And you ain't gonna get shit. I'm going to close up with this, right? This is Proverbs 20, verse 23. So diverse weights are an abomination unto the Lord, and a false weight is not good, right? So they're trying to manipulate their price by forcing people to sell or buy bonds or whatever it was. Where does it say? They want them to buy longer term bonds to replace existing debt by other countries, hoping to ease pressure on the dollar's value. So, you know, they're trying to force people to do these things, but it's not even in these other countries' own interest to do that. From the video I was watching earlier, they was going into that. It's not actually in their best interest to do that. Okay, but you know, if America starts threatening and so, well, we're not going to support you militarily anymore, or we're going to slap tariffs on them, they're gonna you know, make them bend the knee basically. You know, but it's not in these other nations' interest to do this, right? Like I said, you know, Trump's threatening them, he's holding them to ransom. You know, like a gangster. You know, but yeah, it's all unjust balances, man. You know, false balances. It's a fucking, you know, it's crazy, right? But yeah, you know, this is, you know, Esau and his reset, his international financial reset, okay, that he's doing, right? But like I said, there's a lot more behind this. You know, whether with the CBDCs, the digital currencies, right? You know, this is all part of his reset, right? Because I believe, I'd have to go back into it, but I believe with the CBDCs and like these what they call stable coins and things like that, man, you can set their rates. You know, you ain't got to sit there and try and manipulate it. You can just set the rates. You know, but because the dollars are out there already, you need to manipulate the flow of dollars to affect the rates. But with digital currency, you could just change it yourself. You can set it at a particular rate. You ain't got to do all this madness. So you get rid of all the cash, and we ain't got to worry about that no more. And we'll just set the rate. That's the rate of the American dollar. You know, simple, job done. You know, and so this is a system that they'd much rather have, rather than having all this cash just floating everywhere, people holding debt bonds and whatever. You know, but like I said, that's all, you know, part of their reset that they're working on. But anyway, I'm gonna end it there. Lord, this has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until then, I say shalom.